Mr. Clerk, the time is 7 p.m. I'm going to call this public planning meeting to order. Town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. A shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past has brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gallo, any comments, questions? I will call the vote. Councillor Weiss?
I'm in favor.
Councillor Gilliland?
I voted in favor.
Thank you. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Welcome to Aurora's public planning meeting. The purpose of this public meeting is to inform the public and obtain public input regarding the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application. For the planning application that will be considered by council tonight, the following process will occur. Town planning staff will outline the purpose of the planning application being considered. Then the applicant will be given an opportunity to make a presentation and address issues raised in the staff report or public concerns already filed. 3, following these presentations, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments or concerns respecting the item virtually or in person and may speak twice for up to 5 minutes each time. And 4, following comments from members of the public, I will then ask members of council for their comments. It is very important that the town receive the correct names and addresses of individuals having an interest in the planning application. Therefore, if you plan to speak to council at this meeting, or if you wish to be notified of any further council or committee meetings concerning the application being considered, you must complete a planning interested party and speaker request form available on the town's website at aurora.ca/planning notices, or contact Planning and Development Services by email at planning@aurora.ca, or complete a green interested party form, which Linda's holding up, and leave it with our committee coordinator sitting at the front there. Under the Planning Act, only the applicant has the right to appeal any decision of council on a planning application to the Ontario Land Tribunal. This public meeting is being audio and video recorded. Names, addresses, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public, including the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk, Town of Aurora. I will now ask the town clerk to confirm that notification to the public occurred as required by the Planning Act. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Respecting item 5.1, report number PDS 25-070, application for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, P.A.R.C.E.L Inc. 14070 Yonge Street, part blocks A, B, and G, Plan M42, Part 3, 65R-5870, and Parts 3, 6, 7, and 8 of 65R-33710. File numbers are OPA 2024-03 and ZBA 2024-03. A non-statutory notice of public planning meeting was emailed to all interested parties, and updated notice of public planning meeting signs were posted directly on the subject property. Public notification has been provided in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I will now ask our Director of Planning and Development Services to begin with the presentations. Ms. Romano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll have our town planner, Felix Chow, provide an overview of the application. As council may recall, this is the second public planning meeting on this application. Your first statutory public meeting was held back in November 2024, and the applicant has come back with a revised application for this evening's meeting. So I'll turn it over to Felix.
Felix?
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, and members of the public. My name is Felix Chow, and I am a planner with the town. And before us tonight is a second public planning meeting for the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for the property municipally known as 14070 Yonge Street. To briefly provide some context on the subject lands, the site has a total area of 3.6 hectares or 8.9 acres with 140 meters of frontage along Yonge Street and 217 meters of frontage along Elderberry Trail. The site currently contains an abandoned building previously used as a presentation center located on the northeastern corner of the site. The balance of the lands remains vacant. The surrounding land uses are as follows. To the north are existing detached dwellings and environmentally protected lands. To the south is the Ontario Provincial Police Building, Ontario Natural Resources Office, and Service Ontario Building. To the east are detached dwellings, including a new residential subdivision on Cala Trail. And to the west are existing detached dwellings. In 2011, an Ontario Municipal Board appeal was settled with council endorsement of an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application for the property, which approved a total of 3 buildings providing for a wellness center, medical office or clinic, an accessory pharmaceutical dispensary, an accessory nutritional use, an apartment building to a maximum of 20 units, and a single detached residential unit. Subsequently, in 2021, the owner received site plan approval and executed a site plan agreement, but did not proceed with construction, and the site remains largely vacant. On November 12, 2024, a statutory public planning meeting was held regarding the submitted official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications, which contemplated the development of 2 5-story apartment buildings totaling 300 units with vehicular access from Elderberry Trail. At this meeting, council directed the staff to report to another public planning meeting and address issues such as an over-intensification of the subject lands, a significant increase in traffic, and the loss of green space and privacy in an estate residential area. The applicant has since revised the proposal to contemplate 74 street townhouse units and 18 back-to-back townhouse units for a total of 92 townhouse units. The development limits have not changed and the environmental buffers provided will continue to be confirmed by staff. Private condominium roads are proposed within the subject development. Each townhouse unit is proposed to provide a minimum of 2 parking spaces. As part of the initial submission, vehicular access was limited to a single access along Elderberry Trail. The applicant has requested to add a second access in the form of a right-in, right-out along Yonge Street. Furthermore, the revised site plan provides multiple shared outdoor amenity areas, 23 visitor parking spaces, and snow storage areas, all subject to review. The applicant has also submitted an updated traffic opinion letter in which the traffic consultant identifies that the change in the development proposal is expected to generate less than half the number of vehicle trips and will disperse traffic to 2 accesses compared to the previous plan. This traffic opinion letter is currently under staff review. The subject lands have multiple designations within the Town of Aurora official plan. A portion of the properties fronting Yonge Street is within the regional corridor. The lands are further designated as suburban residential within the official plan. Majority of the lands are also identified under the Yonge Street South Secondary Plan or OPA 34 as cluster residential, with smaller portions of the lands designated as estate residential, environmental protection area, and major institutional. The subject lands are also identified as Site-Specific Policy Area 41, as approved through the 2011 OMB settlement. Site-Specific Policy 41 permits the following uses on the subject lands: a wellness center, medical office or clinic, an accessory pharmaceutical dispensary, an accessory nutritional use, a single detached residential unit, and an apartment building to a maximum of 20 units. The proposed official plan amendment largely remains consistent with the original application, as it proposes to redesignate portions of the subject lands to permit a greater residential density and refine the limits of the natural heritage system. However, the revised proposal requires the provision of Special Policy 41 to be amended to facilitate the development of 74 street townhouse units and 18 back-to-back townhouse units, again for a total of 92 townhouse units on the subject lands. Through the previous applications, the property is currently zoned holding provision institutional exception zone HI 391. This site-specific institutional zone was approved to facilitate the development of 3 buildings on the subject lands, and permitted uses were tied to the specific buildings on the property. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment has been revised to facilitate a lower density form of development to facilitate townhouses instead of the previously proposed apartments. Staff anticipate that the proposal will rezone the subject lands from HI 391 to Townhouse Dwelling Residential R8 Exception Zone, Environmental Protection EP Zone, and a Private Open Space O2 Zone. Staff will work with the applicant to determine the appropriate site-specific zoning standards. The proposed application has been circulated for review and comments. Staff have identified the following matters to be addressed: conformity to the relevant planning policies, traffic considerations such as potential signalization of the Yonge Street and Elderberry Trail intersection, continued review of the environmental impact assessment with respect to the adjacent woodland and associated protection zone limits, ensuring appropriate landscaping buffers are provided for the proposed development, and the availability of municipal servicing. Staff will continue working with the applicant to address all comments from the public and commenting agencies, and when appropriate, a staff report with recommendations will be presented at a future committee of the whole meeting for consideration. A site plan application has not been submitted for technical review, but one will be required in the future. All interested parties will be notified of updates relating to the subject applications. Staff remain available for any questions tonight and moving forward in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rumino.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, we can ask the applicant to provide their presentation. I believe the development manager for the application, Mr. Reza Ismaili, has a presentation and a short video.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, town staff, and the members of the public. My name is Reza Ismaili, representing Land Services Group, the development manager for the project. I'm pleased to provide an update on the proposed development at 14070 Yonge Street. To begin, I would like to invite the council to view a short video we have prepared for the project. It offers a clearer understanding of both the site location and the concept design. I would like to begin by introducing Land Services Group. So a very quick introduction to Land Services Group as the manager of the project. Land Services Group is a vertically integrated real estate company specialized in development, construction, and investment management, with multiple active projects across New York region and other municipalities. So a very quick introduction to Land Services Group as the manager of the project. Land Services Group is a vertically integrated real estate company specialized in development, construction, and investment.
Might get the feedback still, so we'll just give it a second. There we go.
Thank you. All right. The subject site is located at the southwest corner of Yonge Street and Elderberry, with an overall area of approximately 8.88 acres with access to Yonge Street, which serves as a regional corridor. In 2024, an application was submitted proposing 2 condominium apartment buildings comprising approximately 300 units in total. The initial concept envisioned a high-density residential form, focusing on intensifying the site's frontage along Yonge Street. Thanks to extensive feedback and insightful comments from town planning staff, council, and the public, our team has significantly revised the proposal to better align with the character of the surrounding neighborhood and planning objectives. The revised concept now proposes a total of 92 townhomes, comprising 74 standard and 18 back-to-back townhomes. In addition to the 2 parking spaces allocated per unit, a total of 23 visitor parking spaces are provided, along with approximately 18,000 square feet of amenity space. The revised design introduces a private road network with dual access points from Yonge Street and Elderberry Trail. The site benefits from 3.5 acres of green space along its western and northern edges and remains within the same developable area as presented in the 2024 application during the public hearing meeting. The key changes implemented in the new designs are as follows. The overall density has been substantially reduced from approximately 300 apartment units in 2 buildings to 92 townhouse units. Building height and massing have been reduced substantially, providing a more compatible transition to adjacent low-rise residential areas. And vehicular traffic impacts have been reduced through the lower unit count from revised access configuration. Supporting technical studies like traffic, servicing, environmental, and urban design are being updated accordingly and will be resubmitted. Due to servicing allocation constraint in the town of Aurora, this application requires significantly fewer service connections compared to the previously proposed development. The site already benefits from a grandfathered servicing allocation for approximately 30 townhouses. Additionally, the applicant is supportive of upgrading the existing sanitary pumping facility, which would increase the overall servicing capacity for the town and potentially benefit future developers as well. With your support and upon approval, we plan to initiate the marketing campaign as early as January 2026, with full project completion targeted for the end of 2027. This reflects a realistic and efficient delivery approach aligned with current market conditions and municipal coordination. In closing, we believe this updated proposal addressing traffic, height, and density challenges is a better fit for the neighborhood and aligns well with the town's goals for growth and good design. It helps meet local housing needs by offering more diverse housing options and takes into account the feedback we've heard from the community. We look forward to working closely with town staff, council, and the community as we move through the next steps of the review process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now I'll open it up to members of the public. Is there any members of the public that would like to come on up? Just get you to state your name. You have 5 minutes, sir.
My name is Paul Langston. I live at 2 Houdini Way, which is just off Elderberry Trail. My observations relative to this new design, and thank you for the height, addressing the height concerns, but this is doubling the population in this area. I think there's under 90 homes along the Elderberry Trail corridor. Average dwelling per acre is 0.5. This is somewhere in the 10 to 11 units per acre. Safety concerns, Elderberry is a 2-kilometer winding hilly country road without sidewalks. It is a favorite cycling trail and walking, jogging trail, and is already dangerous. There's already ample speeding along this corridor. A lot of people cut through Elderberry to bypass or get around the, I guess, Yonge and Bloomington corner. And often we're seeing motorcycles and sports cars doing 100 kilometers an hour along that road. The complex will only exacerbate this issue. Elderberry to Yonge northbound, I think the gentleman mentioned possibly about putting lights at the intersection. To give you an example, I spent 7 minutes at that intersection this morning trying to turn northbound. It's very, very heavily trafficked coming southbound in the mornings on Yonge. So without lights, I don't know how 100 to 200 additional cars are going to get out of that intersection. The bottom end of Aurora is simply not built for this kind of density. There's no services and there's no sidewalks along Yonge Street. And as I mentioned, there's no sidewalks along Elderberry Trail. There's also concerns for wildlife. We've got, believe it or not, deer in the neighborhood. We've got foxes, we've got coyotes, turkeys, lots of owls, possums, every bit of wildlife imaginable. It really is a countrified area. So I do have concern in that regard. Why don't we look at perhaps treating this site more like the opposite side of Elderberry Trail? I think it's called Ascot Parkway, where the homes are on smaller lots, probably 50 by 120 foot lots, as opposed to trying to put 94 units into this little parcel of land. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Yep, come on up. Just get you to state your name and you have 5 minutes, sir.
Hi, good night. My name is Richard Jekyll. I live at 80 Elderberry Trail. I've echoed my neighbor's concerns here regarding the safety of the road. It's a nice, windy, freshly paved road, and a lot of bicycles, a lot of people walking. We have 2 dogs ourselves. We're on that road every day, and it's a dangerous scenario sometimes. You got the weekends, especially, people like to come by with their sports cars, with their motorcycles. Even during the week, around lunchtime, we have high school kids that like to race through there. The lights situation that was tabled regarding Elderberry and Yonge Street is, I think, needed, but it shouldn't be overlooked. Elderberry and Bloomington as well, as a lot of people like to cut through, right? So at a minimum, I'd like to see speed bumps on the road. We have no sidewalks. You know, in that area, we are, I think, disproportionately paying a lot of property taxes, and we really don't utilize much of municipal services. So we'd like maybe some recognition for that some effort would be put in some speed bumps at a minimum there. I'd like to see that there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Come on down. I'll just get you to state your name and you have 5 minutes, sir.
I live on Steeplechase Avenue. Council, staff. I am a co-chair of the RAISE group, which is a ratepayers group in the south end of Aurora. We've been following this application for, I guess it was mentioned 2011. I didn't realize it was that long, but it certainly seems that it could have been. Every time this application comes back, they reduce it, which is great. It's, what I see tonight is much better than the last one. However, as mentioned by some of the neighbors here, this does not fit within South Aurora. We've been vigilant over the last 20 years trying to maintain a sense of 2 units per acre, so that when people come to Aurora, they can move into townhouses, apartment buildings, or if they want to spend the extra money and live on big properties, they can do that too. This is just the first slice into what's going to do is create other applications coming forward. And it'll be multiple developments that have intensification much larger than us. We are 1 unit per 2 to 3 to 4 acres, whereas this is 11 units per acre, if my math is correct. So notwithstanding it meets some of the criteria of the Yonge Street corridor, and of course the federal government has made such a mess of the immigration that they're downloading this to the province, back to the municipalities to rectify it somehow. It doesn't justify what we're seeing here tonight. I appreciate that the applicant's been working on it from over the years, but maybe 18 to 20 units properly situated on that contour site, houses that look similar to what are in the area, I feel would be the best route to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Yep, come on down. And just get you to state your name and you have 5 minutes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name's Evangelia Ifandis, and I live at 51 Elderberry Trail. So 2 houses down from the proposed development. And I'd like to say thank you for reducing the amount of density within this proposed development. However, I still feel just like my neighbors do that it doesn't fit within the profile of the neighborhood. We've mentioned the sidewalks, the traffic. Snow clearing becomes an issue as well. When you take a look at the density that they're proposing right now, where are they going to shovel all the snow? It looks like a very urbanized neighborhood in a suburban neighborhood. Parking, 23 parking spaces for 92 units. I don't think that's enough. Where are you going to fit everything? When you're living at the part of town which is the least, lack of a better word, developed, so you don't have stores, you don't have libraries within walking distance, parks within walking distance, that means the people who are going to buy these townhouses are going to need cars. Where are they going to put these cars if they only have 2 parking spaces? Kids grow up. They're going to need to drive to get to where they need to go, right? They're social beings. Where are you going to park all these cars? I think there are too many houses for the space. And I think that we need to revisit this. I understand that we need to develop more housing, but I still think that there's still too many houses being put into this 8.8 acre lot. And I don't think it's going to work for the community, aside from all of the other reasons that my neighbors have mentioned, which I echo as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Welcome. If I can just get you to state your name and you have 5 minutes, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Green. I live at 5 Fox Point in Aurora. I've lived there since 1983. And I've seen this particular property develop over the years as was stated earlier, the first presentation was in 2011 for a medical site with some residences built on there. And that was eventually okayed by the OMB at the time. And I think building on that, the developer has said, okay, I got permission for that. And now I want to change my subsequent proposals from high density to not so high density. However, when you look at the density, there's roughly 100 units, and on average, I guess there's 3 to 4 people per unit. So you've got 400 people living there, all need transportation because there are no shops or schools within walking distance. So I believe in the morning and the evening, there'll be a lot of traffic and it'll be confusion there. So I also looked at some of the pictures of the designs, and maybe I'm wrong, but to me, those particular types of square buildings do not fit in to the area whatsoever. The people that have built houses have complied to a more chateau type style, and that's the kind of style that everybody wants to expect. So, and as was said earlier, there's a winding road going along Elderberry, no sidewalks. In the evening, it could be dangerous for all these people entering and leaving the this particular site. There was no mention about any garages that go along with the townhouses. Whether that is possible or not, I don't know. But I see there are 23 visitors spots, which is not a lot for that number of townhouses. So I believe overall, it does not fit in with the Oak Ridges Moraine guidelines at all. And it should be reduced in size, and it looks like it gets very, very close to Yonge Street. There's no screening whatsoever. It doesn't really fit in to the southern end of Aurora. I don't want it to be like Richmond Hill, which is jammed in. So I believe that the developer should come back with another view and less residences. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Well, we don't really do questioning, but you can come up and make a comment if you'd like. Okay. Any other members of the public? You can pose the question if you'd like, ma'am. But I mean, if a counselor wants to bring that question forward when they speak, yeah, you can come up. You can come up. If I can just get you to state your name again.
It's from 51 Elderberry Trail. My question is more so for the developer on the development itself. Are these going to be condo townhomes, or are they going to be owned just individually by people? I'm not familiar with how townhomes necessarily work. I think they're two different types of structures, one like condo form and then the other, everybody owns their own. So moving forward in terms of maintenance and everything else with these townhomes, if it's not a condo development, are there going to be regulations as to keeping the development looking the same as it did the day it was built? Or are they going to be able to put different colored roofs, different colored garage doors, paint the siding whatever color they want? Like, is it going to look the same, or are they going to be able to do whatever they want? Because in the city, there was a townhouse development that I know of because my cousin lives there. They all owned their own houses and they painted them whatever color they wanted to. The roofs are whatever color they want. It's a mess. So I just want to make sure that this is something that's addressed. And so we're clear on what exactly is the type of townhouse development that they're referring to. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other members of the public? I'm going to close the public portion of this meeting. Council, the recommendation is that report number PDS 25-070 be received, and 2, that the comments presented at the non-statutory public planning meeting be addressed by Planning and Development Services in a report to a future committee of the whole meeting. Someone want to move that recommendation? Councillor Gilliland, second. Councillor Kim. Any comments or questions to the applicant or to the report? Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Mr. Muno and I have been here since the beginning of this application. When it was, the town of Aurora took this property to the OMB, and it's the OMB that said 2 units per acre. That was, I'm making a statement because I just saw the paperwork. So when the application came in, it was more commercial, institutional, well, it was basically supporting institutional use. So then at that point, we're not talking, there were some homes, but we were really talking about something very different. But it is settlement area. And settlement area, it says in the report, is meant to support a variety of residential uses. So we're doing this winding path, and now we're back to residential. Is the 2 units per acre still being upheld in this settlement area as the OMB said, or is it because we changed it to institutional use that got canceled?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, the original application approved at the board, settled at the board by council and the applicant back in 2011 was under OPA 34, and they had submitted an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment to introduce the 3 buildings: detached house, a 4-story, 20-unit condo apartment building, and then the 3-story building closest to Yonge Street, which was a medical/commercial building. So it had site-specific approval, but there was a slight bump up in density even at that time. So this is a new application that the applicant has come forward with. So some things have changed with our new official plan back in 2024, with a portion of the Yonge Street corridor being identified as a regional corridor. But it is a new application though, Councillor. So they are seeking now to, the original application was, as we heard, 2 5-story buildings with about 300 units. Based on comments that the applicant heard from members of the public and council, they've come forward with this revised application of 92 townhouses.
Councillor?
Thank you. I'm sorry, through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Muno. But the OMB ruling would still hold on this property because it's settlement area, notwithstanding any other applications before it.
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, council is not bound by that 2011 OMB decision on this application. No. So it's a new application, council. We can consider the new application. There are some different, the Oak Ridges Marine Settlement, that hasn't changed. You're correct. It is settlement area. So urban uses, are permitted under OP 34. Yes, you're correct. The density provision was 2 units an acre. Again, it's a new application. So yes, they are seeking an increase in density.
Councillor?
Thank you. And I was referring to, I don't know what it was called then, in 2011, but I was referring to the decision made by the OMB before I got onto council, before you were here, which would have been 2000. So it was then that Aurora took the developers of this property to the OMB, and it was agreed in writing that it's 2 units per acre for residential uses. So this is the question, does that still stand?
So, okay, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thanks for the clarification. So you're referring back to what led to OPA 34, and there was a board hearing that had led to the adoption of OPA 34 for this Yonge Street South secondary plan area with density, maximum density of 2 units an acre. So again, we're not necessarily bound by that earlier board decision or council's adoption of OPA 34. We have amended that secondary plan throughout the years, so it's up to council in rendering a final decision on any application within that former OPA 34 area. And again, just a reminder, as of 2024, with our new official plan, the Yonge Street corridor does have a new designation, being regional corridor, which allows, up to 5-story heights.
Council?
Follow up to you, Mr. Mayor, but only part of this area is regional corridor transit. Thank you. So that's two different designations. I'd like to know in the report, what does it mean? Hold on a sec. Refine the limits of the natural heritage system. That's on page 5.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, certainly. So what we mean by that is this application, they did submit a new environmental impact study because the southwest portion of the site is classified as a non-significant woodlot. Development limits haven't changed. They are proposing the same development limits. So that southwest portion is being protected, those trees with the proper buffer. Based on the applicant's environmental impact study, we are also conducting a peer review of that. So when we do report back, we'll obviously report back to council with respect to the development areas and if the proper buffer areas are being protected based on what we've seen and the site walk staff did with our peer review consultant. They are, satisfied with the development limits, are still respecting those development limits and protecting the greenland system to the southwest. But again, we will, when we do report back, we will provide confirmation of the environmental impact study and the other various reports, being traffic and servicing, et cetera.
Sir.
Follow up, but the natural heritage system has to be respected. So if the development does not conform to that, then it's not the heritage system that takes the fall. Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Thank
That's
you.
correct.
There were some, I don't understand why we get these presentations when there are so many things that are outstanding. Here, what's outstanding is conformity to relevant policies. We should know that. Review and confirmation of the environmental impact assessment, ensuring appropriate landscaping buffers are provided. But actually, if you look at the design, there's no buffer onto Elderberry because there's a street that looks almost right to the property limits on the north side. With respect to Yonge Street, there doesn't look like much of a buffer there. So I would say that they haven't respected the buffers. And with respect to availability of municipal servicing, this area is on Wells at the moment. Through you, Mr. Mayor, is this area on Wells at the moment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the estate residential subdivision to the west are on private services, but Championship Circle and these lands would be municipally serviced by water and sanitary sewers.
And the developer's agent said that they're going to upgrade the sanitary servicing capacity. Could you speak to that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think what he was referencing, there is a sanitary sewer pumping station in the Championship Circle development on the north side of Elderberry Trail. That pumping station will have to be improved to deal with the additional capacity from this development and any other development to the north on Yonge Street.
Councillor.
Is that going to be a disruption for the people on Championship Circle?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no.
Okay.
The applicant would have to do any upgrade required to achieve additional capacity.
Councillor.
Thank you. And as a couple of the residents said, it is on a transit corridor partway, but people are going to need cars in this area. It's just, they're not going to be taking the GO bus to go up to, or sorry, Viva to go up to shopping stores. I mean, it's almost a joke that we would be including this area with this kind of residential build.
You're at 5 minutes.
Thank you. And I'm at my time.
Thank you. Councillor Kim and then Councillor Gilliland. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I have a couple of questions that to start that a couple of residences inquired. So I'd like to ask the representative to come up and answer. And the two questions I have is, one, a resident talked about a condo structure in a freehold and what that would entail. So if we can have a response for that. And the other one is about the townhouse elevations, whether the elevation that was shown in the presentation is what's going to be built in the end, or is that just a placeholder for the sake of the presentation?
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll address the first one first, Councillor. The condo structure is going to be a common element condo with freehold towns. So the ownership of the actual units will be it'll be individual ownership, and then the condo corporation will own the roads, the amenities, and all the common elements. Regarding your second question with respect to the elevation shown, that's just a placeholder. It's just an example of what could be possible, but we're obviously very willing to work with town staff to finalize the architectural design of the buildings.
Councillor.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to the presenter, I think specifically the resident asked about certain condo rules. I don't suppose that you're going to know what those condo rules are going to be down the road should this application be successful, but will residents be limited to what type of color that they put on their garages? Essentially, will there be uniformity so that that development will be presentable?
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, so that's always that's something we can certainly discuss through the site plan application process. That's something that's specified in our condo docs, which we further down the road we have our legal team prepare, and that's something we can certainly take a look at later.
Councillor.
Thank you. I certainly hope that whatever is built on this property is in alignment in terms of the type of quality that residents in the neighborhood have been used to for decades. So I hope that's under consideration. Through you to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, we've tried our best, and I think overall in the history of planning application, we've upheld OPA 34, but with our new OP consisting of the new Yonge Street corridor, can you make more clear, what supersedes the other? Because this property, about half of it or 55% of it might rest on the corridor, and the balance will not. So which supersedes?
Mr. Romero.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, keep in mind, our current, planning regime in the province, we've got the provincial, policy statements that deal with, intensification within, along transit corridors, but our own local official plan, as I mentioned, the original secondary plan area for this Yonge Street South was OPA 34, and we're all very familiar with that, with a cap, a maximum density of 2 units an acre. Over the years, Council has kept to that. It's been amended slightly in a number of parcels and applications through the years, but for all intents and purposes, that's been maintained. However, in 2024, with our new official plan update, there is a regional corridor designation that runs along Yonge Street to provide and encourage, up to 5-story heights and more intensification along the Yonge Street corridor. So again, it's really as part of the review, it's up to, Council to consider, along with, staff's recommendations on the size of that regional corridor. You can certainly make an argument that regional corridor doesn't apply to the entire 9 acres, but certainly along that Yonge Street frontage. So that would, that policy would, supersede the old OPA 34 2 units an acre policy. But again, it is a new application. They are asking for, 92 towns over the entire, 9 acre parcel. So it's, something that we need to be aware of with respect to the new policy framework, the provincial plans, but also our new OP and regional corridor, keeping in mind that, again, there are some woodland features on a property, so that component will have to be protected. The applicant is showing the development within those development areas and protecting the Greenlands area or along the south and western boundary. But again, we've got 2 planning documents that we need to balance, moving forward in this part of town.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Rumino. So from my interpretation, I believe what you're saying is, and you can share with me if I'm incorrect, but my understanding is that the Yonge Street corridor supersedes OPA 34 in the zone of the Yonge Street corridor. Unfortunately, in this whole property, the Yonge Street corridor the boundary rests somewhere within the property, whether it's halfway, 30%, 80%, we don't know. But the building envelope or the site plan is like one canvas. We can certainly, if we were to say if it's half or 60-40, it seems to be clear that our new OP in the Yonge Street corridor allows for a 5-story building and have intensification along the corridor. And if that's the case, theoretically, the owner could place a 5-story building and maybe even 30-40 stacked townhouses, and then the western portion can have 2 units, which, from a complete canvas perspective, it wouldn't seem to have good planning architecture or planning principles. So you either get that or you work with the whole palette and see what you can smooth out and collaborate and come with something that's somewhere in between. And, I appreciate that the builder and the owner has come down from, 2, 5, or 6-story buildings. I think there's sufficient enough here in this application that we can move on to the committee of the whole, and so that we can continue to have this discussion in open public, because we know what happens if we decline something in public planning. We don't get the opportunity to collaborate and partner and have further discussions with the owner. So I think those are my comments for now, but I'm pleased that we've come a long way from the previous application, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. I think a lot of my questions and comments have already been said. But just for clarity, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Rumino, if the applicant were to come forward with the original application that was approved by the OMB, could they come and build the 2 5-story buildings as they initially intended?
Rumino, I don't believe the 2 5 were approved. I think it was something different. Correct. But could they come with that original application?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. The original application as submitted back in November was 2 5-story buildings. But again, council never completed our review on that application. The original approval dates back to 2011. That went to the board, and there was 2, a medical 3-story building and a 4-story 20-unit condo building. But the applicant, since November has made some significant changes with this revision before council this evening, being the 92 towns.
Yeah. So Councillor, correct, I mean that original application from 2011 could be built today, but not the 2 5-story.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But at the end of the day, The original applicant is coming in and making some modifications and reducing the density to what our official plan that we, as all of council, have approved. And so what we did approve was a significant amount of intensification on the Yonge Street corridor through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Rumuno. Is that not correct?
Sorry, could you repeat that, Councillor? I apologize. I was saying something to Mr. Rumuno.
Did we not, as council, approve on our new official plan intensification on the regional corridor on Yonge Street in that area?
Mr. Rumuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. The regional designation along the frontage of Yonge Street allows for up to 5-story apartment buildings.
Councillor?
Thank you. Again, like, I'm taking everything into consideration, and I have seen this application come back and forth multiple times. And looking at what's being presented today, quite honestly, I'm quite shocked that it wasn't more intensified, at least on the Yonge Street facing side. I kind of expected less intensification on the back side, which was really the majority of the public comments back then. However, I have no interest in trying to debate whether or not we should be intensifying or not on the Yonge Street corridor, as it's been mandated with our official plan and approved by the province. And as council, we have often said repeatedly around this council table that if we are going to be doing any type of intensification, especially when it comes to height, it is on this major transit corridor areas such as Yonge Street. And we've often talked about how on a regional level as well, and how Yonge Street is a main corridor. And so I don't see that there's an issue with the application as presented. In fact, I think that what we're building right now is townhomes that are not going to be at all affordable at all. So if that's the type of development that we're trying to do in Aurora, so be it. But they will be 1.3, 1.5, $1.8 million homes. And we will lose that ability to have some mixed housing, to afford some housing for people who may want to get into their first home at a smaller scale, whether it's through a smaller condo, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and so forth. So I don't really have an issue with this coming forward the way it stands. I think it's pretty standard, these stacked townhomes. I don't think they're all that pretty, but again, these things are very subjective. I appreciate some of the comments made from the public about how these can look and appear to be very militant in a way, but that's what they are, stacked townhomes. We see them all around Richmond Hill, Vaughan, Markham, all over the place. And, that's pro forma. That's the cost of construction. You want to scale back, you want to put less density, cost goes up, and builders have got to do what they've got to do in order to put the shovels in the ground, in order to turn around and actually make the numbers work. And this is what we're going to get. As far as I'm concerned, this is the application coming forward. The density has been reduced significantly. I can't argue with what's being presented today.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. A number of us made references to the official plan, and it is true. We just recently approved it all and have a new official plan out there. But when you look at the official plan and you look at the purpose of the plan, and it's stated just in the beginning pages that whenever a new proposal is brought forward, the plan is really there to provide us with the policies and the guidelines to evaluate the appropriateness of the change and the degree of which that proposed change is considered compatible with the development within the areas. And I think that's still today one of the tests that we have when evaluating the application itself. The prior one that came to us last year, I was opposed to it. I think many of us were opposed to it, but I'll leave that to my council colleagues to voice their own concerns. And so I appreciate the fact that the applicant heard the concerns of the residents and those around council, and made an effort to try and reduce the density, change the build form to townhouses, because it's true, I would much prefer to see townhomes there than a 5-story building. But there still is that issue of compatibility for me. And it's not just with that application, we've talked about it over and over. It's hard to get compatibility in Southwest Aurora when our official plan is so divergent when it comes to what we want there. In one hand, as Councillor Gardner mentioned before, we have OPA 34, which presents a vision for that area and talks about what we're trying to achieve and the built form and 2 units of acre. And then we have the regional corridor, which talks about 5 stories. And the two itself don't seem compatible with one another. They seem at opposite ends, and we still have this challenge every time an application comes forward, whether this or elsewhere in the area, in terms of how do you remedy this issue, because they're always going to be at odds, and we haven't figured that out. As for this application myself, I appreciate the effort that's gone into it to this point, but I would still like to, echo some of the concerns of the residents around there and like to see some further reductions when it comes to the density. I think, if it is to go forward, certainly that a signalized intersection is an absolute must. That's a non-starter for myself. And I think there's some other concerns that need to be addressed around safety, around access, the parking. I think when I look at the plans itself, I'll have to speak with Mr. Ramuno, but I think it's within the zoning provisions, the 23 visitor spaces, but perhaps Mr. Ramuno can confirm that. I do see that there is parking for all the townhouses themselves for those units, but I get the concern because we've seen it at Woodhaven and we've seen it in other developments in that area where there's no on-street parking. And then what happens is that the residents come back to council and they say, we have a problem. There's nowhere for our visitors to park. And this needs to be taken into consideration because maybe it looks good on a plan, but in reality, it doesn't work. And we've heard it over and over from the subdivision that's just north of this area because there is nowhere for them to go.
Councilor, just and Mr. Ramuno can correct me if I'm wrong, what's required for residents parking is 110. They're providing 184. Visitors is required 23 and they're providing 23. Okay. So unless Mr. Ramuno, is that correct? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
So I guess, my closing comments really are around the compatibility and the fit. I think the residents are bang on when they say that, they'd like to see some further revisions or conversations around trying to get it to emulate a little bit more of the area.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Councilor Gallo.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. First off, to staff, is there a reason why we don't have a statistics chart that we would normally see on these applications? I'm having to rely on the applicant's chart. And I think, Mr. Mayor, you read from that chart in terms of parking, and that's only one of multiple criteria there. Is there a reason why we don't have that comparable between the last application and this one?
Mr. Ramuno.
To you, Mr. Mayor, no, I mean, this is a revised application that came in, recently, so we didn't provide that direct comparison between the two applications. But I think based on, the parking, yes, they are, in compliance with our parent zoning bylaw, proposing 2 spaces per unit plus the 23 additional on-site visitor spaces. Again, the applicant has revised the application, the OP and zoning to change the build form from the 2 buildings to the townhomes, but they haven't submitted a detailed site plan application. So that'll be the next stage. I mean, they really wanted to get through the revision and the OP and zoning. But if this does proceed further, they will need to submit a detailed site plan to deal with some of those, engineering and architectural details being, on-site amenity space, refining parking and landscaping, et cetera.
Councilor.
I'm aware of that. I'm just, I don't want to necessarily rely on applicants' charts when comparing applications. My preference is that staff provide their data so that we can make good decisions. I'm not sure if through staff or to the applicant, some mention in terms of traffic and signalized, the introduction of signalized lights at Yonge and Elderberry. Is that something that we would be addressing? Is that something that the applicant is willing to provide at their cost?
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we've had discussions with our regional transportation staff as well, and moving forward with any development on this site, we would impose a condition of the development agreement that Yonge and Elderberry be signalized. And at this point, that would be at the expense of the applicant moving forward. Just as a reminder, I mean, long-term down the road, the region does have plans for a future phase expansion of Viva through this section of Yonge Street, so that, that would eventually be signalized. But with any new application coming forward, if this does get approved and moves forward, we would impose a condition that that intersection be signalized, and, within, some improvements to that throat area of Elderberry as it intersects Yonge Street as well, with respect to the dedicated left turn lane. But those are details that we would work out through the site plan. But yes, signalization would be a condition of the approval.
Council.
Thank you. And just the last question. One of the conditions, availability of municipal servicing capacity, and I did hear Councillor Gardner touched on it as well. Could someone just explain that a little bit more to me? What is involved? I thought I heard that a investment in some infrastructure would equal additional capacity, not only for this property, but maybe I'm hopeful, additional capacity for other projects. Is that what I heard?
Sure.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think there are two things there. I think the applicant spoke that with the original 2011 approval, in that approval, there was 21 units worth of allocation that was granted to that application. With any additional increase, we would also have to allocate additional allocation. The other component is more of an infrastructure upgrade. There is a pumping station to the north, and based on our review, that pumping station would have to be upgraded, larger pumps to deal with any additional allocation from this development or any other undeveloped parcels further north on Yonge Street. So I think what the applicant mentioned, that if they were to be the first ones to upgrade that pumping station, that would free up or allow additional, developments to take advantage of that upgraded pumping station.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, is that at the expense of this applicant?
Mr. Romero?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it would be at the expense of this applicant. But again, if the upgrades are made, any future applicant that comes forward that takes advantage or benefits from that, there would be some cost sharing between this applicant and any future applicants who benefit from that upgrade to the pumping station.
Council.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, is that because I'm not exactly sure how it works. Is that geographically restricting? Like it has to be within that area, or is it a town-wide?
Mr. Romero?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, it's not town-wide. It's really just this. The catchment area is really this parcel, and I believe the a couple parcels immediately north of Ridge Road, around the Ridge Road area on the west side of Yonge Street.
Council.
And through you, have they indicated that that's something that they're wanting to do?
Mr. Romero?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, they have. They're aware of the need to upgrade the pumping station.
Council.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess, and I'm sure this is a very difficult thing to answer, but what is the ultimate plan? We have a fairly good sense of the environment, the real estate environment today. Isn't the intent of the applicant, through Mr. Mayor, to move forward on this application in a timely manner?
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, if we can get council support and approval tonight, we plan to move forward with the site plan application right away.
Council.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for the first time? Councilor Gardner, second time.
Thank you. Following on the question about the pumping station, the applicants are eager to get going with the building. So how much time would it take to upgrade that pumping station? And are we going to have an agreement in place that has to be finished before any occupancy takes place?
Bruno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I mean, that would be, again, another condition of approval before any building permits are issued. And that would be part of a future discussion as part of their engineering submission and that contract to upgrade the pumping station. So yeah, that's something that staff would work with the applicant on, and it'd be a precondition.
Counselor?
Thank you. And a very important piece of this is review and confirmation of the environmental impact assessment. I mean, we can see where the world is going quickly with respect to climate change. So this is a very important, we have to get this right. We may be a small cog in the wheel, but we have to get this right. With respect to parking, and I know that the applicant has conformed, but if we think about it, well, I guess the question is, are these residential streets within the development going to be able to accommodate parking, on-street parking? Are they going to be wide enough to accommodate on-street parking?
Mr. Romano, will the condo roads be able to accommodate parking?
To you, Mr. Mayor, what they're proposing, again, we haven't seen the final plan, but the condo roads would be private, 6-meter widths. But what they're not providing on-street parking on those private roads, but they have dedicated visitor parking spots throughout the subject site. We've made a note of it as well, and that's another comment that we'll take back to see if there's an opportunity to increase the amount of on-site visitor parking. But they would be dedicated on-site visitor parking within the subject lands and the future condominium corporation.
Counselor?
Well, thank you. And following along Councillor Thompson's comments, there's 92 residents and 23 visitor parking, and maybe that conforms. But if there's no on-road parking within this subdivision, then where are the extra cars going to park when they come to visit? And there will be times when there's more than 23. So that means they'll be parking on Yonge Street. And I don't think we want that. So each situation has to be looked at individually with respect to parking and safety of parking. So I'd ask Mr. Muno to continue that conversation. I really don't want cars parking on Yonge Street. And how much of this area is regional transit, is designated as regional transit?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I mean, the entire corridor, Yonge Street corridor.
But when we were talking about this, and I think Councillor Thompson caught it, there was only part of it which was actually transit corridor.
So, Councillor, the plans eventually for the region is for the rapid transit to run south from the tracks south down into Richmond Hill.
Right. But when we had the last report, we were saying that only part of this would I guess it's the frontage. So the frontage is on the transit corridor. So then with respect to the density, how much of that the property is actually required to have that density? Is that something that you know?
Mr. Romano, I don't believe that the policy talks about density, but
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, Councilor Gardner, I think you're referring to our regional corridor designation that runs along the frontages of Yonge Street. It's not clearly defined in the way of meters, but based on, the conceptual official plan designation, it's typically 100 meter depths within Yonge Street. So it's approximately half of this subject site would fall within that regional corridor. But again, that's something for council to consider as part of, as Councilor Thompson mentioned, is this development appropriate fit and compatible for the area in light of the regional, where it is and the regional corridor designation and the OPA 34 policies.
Thank you. And in my opinion, this isn't appropriate. It's just going back to the compatibility. And it's not a matter of, not in my backyard. It's a matter of these homes were purchased knowing that there was going to be a very low density in this area. And then we have something that looks, that is very dense. And as was said, it's not, even the look of the place is not compatible. Maybe if it didn't, I don't know if any of you are the architects in the audience, but it could look better. And it certainly could look more in keeping with what the residents in this area are saying and what was mentioned by Councillor Thompson, which is compatibility. So I think there's still quite a lot of work that needs to be done here. So at this point, I'm not in support.
Thank you. Councillor Weiss.
Thank you. I've been listening to all the councillors and my colleagues here. It seems to me that we're in the same problem of the competition between the regional corridor and the density that's allowed there through our OP and the compatibility issues that Councillor Thompson has identified. And I think the developer has not satisfied, they've failed to satisfy either the OP and the density along the regional corridor, nor the compatibility issue. And until we get this resolved, this is not an appropriate development for this area. And I would like to see the developer to come back with respect for the OP and the regional corridor and respect for the compatibility issue. And until that's done, I don't think I can support this.
You, Councillor Thompson, second.
Thank you. Just two quick comments. While I appreciate the applicant's eagerness to get going, I just wanted to just add to your comment that even if it gets approved tonight, this is just the first step in the process. It's not really an approval. It just moves it forward. And then secondly, through you to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, we have plans to build a sidewalk, multi-use paths all along Yonge Street next year. If this project moves forward, will it have any impact on the development of those or the construction of those sidewalks?
Sure.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, you're correct. We're in the middle of our design on the multi-use path on both sides of Yonge Street from Bloomington to the tracks. No, that multi-use path will be within the regional right of way, so it won't impact the development limits of this application.
Council.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. It's a much needed improvement for the area. Thank you.
Councillor Kim, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, I do agree with everybody that, anything short of single detached estate homes would be incompatible to the area. However, our new OP and the Yonge Street corridors changed the rules somewhat and the lens in which we have to work. And it's a matter of what is more compatible. When you look at what's allowed on the corridor and anyone can build a 5-story building, I would say that is far more incompatible than a low rise. Then you go into, is a semi-detached or a townhouse, is that more compatible than a 5-story? I would argue that it is. But certainly, we're not going to get the compatibility that we've been used to. And I've been in favor of OPA 34 in prior applications. Unfortunately, this is the first time that we've had to deal with the Yonge Street corridor, and this is what we're faced with. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, will the applicant have any challenges getting this traffic light in through the region? Is it pretty well a done deal if this application goes through, or is it still going to be a challenge getting the the region to approve. But given you said earlier that they did have plans to have this down the road, to have this being paid for by the applicant and not the region, I would imagine that would make it more favorable to residents who want the traffic lights now, as well as the applicant who want to build.
Sure.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, my understanding through staff discussion with regional staff, they were obviously supportive of signalization going in as part of this or a future application. And again, long term, the regional plans would be to signalize this intersection down the road, but that's not within their current programming. But again, if we move forward, it'd be a condition of approval that this applicant or future applicant install a signalized intersection at Yonge and Elderberry Trail.
Council.
Thank you, Mr. Rumino. And the last couple of years, the trending word in our planning meetings has been, or the phrase, is it defensible? We've been using that quite a bit. And for that reason, to keep the discussion in the public forum, we've tended to move the application forward to committee of the whole so that we can continue to partner and collaborate and work with the applicant to get something that's more desirable with the residents. So I think to reject the application at this early stage, I think is a mistake. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Marco or Mr. Rumino, from a defensibility perspective, if we were to reject this application now, do we have sufficient variables to stand on to defend ourselves at OLT with this application?
Mr. Ramon.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I hope at this point, my recommendation to council would be, as laid out in the report, is to direct staff to bring it back to a future committee of a whole where council consider the application once staff has completed, our complete review of this application for council's consideration. I've made some notes here as well. I think the applicants heard comments around the table that there are still some concerns with the overall density, landscaping, additional visitor parking spaces, the architectural designs of the townhomes. Again, we haven't seen a detailed plan, but the applicant has also indicated that is really just a conceptual plan. They're willing to work with staff. So I think if we continue to move this one forward to avoid a future appeal, we'll do our best to complete our review, ensure that we have all the technical details dealt with before we bring it back for further consideration for council. And again, we'll work with the applicant to see if they're willing to continue to make some revisions to the plan before us this evening.
Council.
Yeah, thank you. And for those council members who are considering rejecting this application now, I hope that you'd be encouraged to reconsider that so that we can continue to collaborate with the applicant, because nothing's approved at this present point anyway. So we're just moving this along, as Councillor Thompson has mentioned earlier. And finally, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the applicant, you've heard the concerns. I think one of the concerns was density, and the other concern was visitor parking or insufficient amount of visitor parking. Is that something that you would be flexible with?
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, absolutely. As members of council have kind of alluded to, this plan isn't set in stone. We still haven't gone through a site plan approval process, and we're more than willing to work with town staff on all of these items, including the architectural design, the final number of parking spaces, the amenity space. All of this is still for discussion.
Okay. Councilor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Weiss, second time.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate what Mr. Ramuno said, and also the appeal by Councillor Kim. And I also like the notion that the developer is ready to work with town staff to try to deal with the parking issues, the compatibility issues, the density issues. And like Councillor Kim, I'd like to see this resolved as with this applicant at this time. And so I'd like to see this go forward to committee of the whole, as was suggested. Hopefully those issues are going to be resolved. And if they're not, we'll have another chance to take a look at that and to reject this later. But I'd really like to see some work done on this before it comes back to the committee.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I think what council has said has been heard by the applicant and the residents. Residents, thank you very much for coming out this evening. We always appreciate you coming out and letting us know your thoughts and concerns in regards to any development application. There's a few of those concerns as well from a compatibility issue. I think that the structure of what we've done through our update of our OP with the regional corridor that we've implemented down Yonge Street, and it goes in 100 meters, as you said, Mr. Ramuno. I think that we need to have a clearer picture as we move forward, and not only with this application, but all applications, future applications that come forward in this area, and look at how do we coincide and live with OPA 34 and the regional corridor. Because when I look at this application, I'd prefer to see the back end of this fall more in line with OPA 34 than it does currently. And I think if it did that, I think the residents would be a little bit more open to moving forward with that, because at the end of the day, we have held firm on OPA 34, and I think we want to continue to do that. And so this entire parcel does not fall within the regional corridor. And I think that's the problem that some members of council are having at this table when they're looking at what's being proposed. And so I hope that as we work together through this process, that the applicant will take that into consideration, make any necessary changes, and work with not only with the community, but with staff and with council to come with a compromise that will work for everyone. One question I did have for you, Mr. Ramuno, is the access to Elderberry Trail needed? Could it be removed? Because I know that there's some issues with that.
Through Mr. Mayor, is something we'd have to look at, but considering it's a plans to signalize the intersection, I think it would be required. The Yonge Street right in, right out, I think, is an addition that would help providing that secondary access point. Something we can look at, but I think based on the traffic information and the requirement to signalize the intersection, I believe direct access from Elderberry to this site would be required, and would be the appropriate design.
But if it is something that we can have some conversations and look into, I'd appreciate that, because I think that that's part of the concern is that some of this traffic will flow out onto Elderberry and not head east out onto the traffic light, but head west through Elderberry and go through the neighborhood, causing more traffic in the area. So if that's something that we can look at, I think we would all be appreciative. But I think everyone's heard those concerns. So at this moment, I'll call the vote, and we will remind everyone, as well as Councillor Thompson. I think Councillor Kim also mentioned that there is no decision being made tonight. If this does pass, we are just moving forward through the process, and we'll see everyone again come committee, and hopefully the applicant will make the necessary changes, as I said, that will allow for us to move forward in this in a positive manner. So I'll call the vote at this moment in time. And the Councillor Weiss is a yes. I see him with his thumb up. I'm assuming that's what you wanted, Councillor Weiss, with the thumb. Thank you. Councillor Gallo? Yes. Councillor Gallo is a yes. That carries. Confirming bylaw. Someone want to move that? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kim, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Before I call for adjournment, I'll just remind everyone, make sure if you want to stay notified, fill out the green sheet. And as I said, no decision has been made tonight. We're just moving through the process. So we'll be back when this does come back at committee with all the information that's required from our staff and a recommendation, and we'll move forward at that time. Okay. All motion to adjourn. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gardner, all those in favor? Opposed, that carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.